Happy Death Day is a new horror comedy film from the studio Blumhouse and Universal, and this movie stars Jessica Rothe as the character named Tree, who is not very nice to a lot of people. She lives a very rude college lifestyle on campus. She lives with a whole sorority filled with rude people just like her. And on one day, her birthday in fact, later on that night, she gets killed by a guy wearing a baby mask over him with a black hoodie, but as soon as she gets killed, she wakes up again at the very start of her birthday once again, lives out the same day, and then dies again, starts over. It's pretty much Groundhog Day and Edge of Tomorrow once again with this movie with the horror concept. And because of her dying over and over on the same day, starting over, she actually has the opportunity to solve her murder, find out who's trying to kill her, and to stop it so she can live on to tomorrow. I was kind of interested to see this movie after seeing the trailer. It looked like they were using the concept, which has been used before, but they were using it in a new kind of horror way, which I was interested to see. I was a little less interested, though, when I found out that the director was Christopher Landon, who did the movie called Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, which I kinda hate a lot. I hate all the Paranormal Activity ones. The marked ones is definitely up there. So I went into this movie with middle-of-the-road kind of expectations, kind of keeping it in check, and I walked out of this movie thinking it was fine. It is a fine, simple little movie. Okay, the best way I can really describe it for you guys is like you're trying to find a movie to watch on Netflix, like a comedy or a horror movie, and you're kind of just scrolling around. You don't really want to see any like the famous ones like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or something like that. Like maybe something more obscure that only Netflix would have. That's kind of what Happy Death Day is, except a little bit above the quality of most of those kind of movies. This is a fun movie to watch when you have nothing else to watch. That's the best way I can really describe it for you guys. Most of the enjoyment that you will get out of this movie is probably from Jessica Rothe playing the main character, who at first, for the first 10-15 minutes or so, very unlikable. She's hanging around a bunch of unlikable people. At first you might be thinking like, oh, I'm supposed to watch an entire movie about this character? Ugh. But then as soon as the movie kind of, gets started a bit, her character actually starts to go through that arc of finding out, oh, I'm not a good person, I need to change that. It's cliched, it's been done before, but through Jessica Rothe's performance, it's something genuine. You feel like there's some emotion being brought there. Her performance is definitely much better than this kind of movie even deserves. And the character of Tree actually does get more likable as the film progresses, so they did achieve that on that standpoint. And even the actor who played the character Carter, I thought he was also giving a much better performance than this kind of movie would normally deserve. He was actually pretty good, and he also kind of reminds me of Evan Peters, just from like the way he delivers his line. There's a tone of his voice and the way he moves his mouth, something reminds me of Evan Peters. And these two together actually do have some good chemistry in this film, and I was kind of hoping that they'd have more screen time together. Unfortunately, though, that kind of leads into a bigger issue that I had with this movie, that is, there's a lot of missed potential, I think. As besides the relationship that maybe could have been expanded upon a little bit more, there was also, I think, more room to have genuine scares and creepy scenes, because this movie is a horror comedy. There's a killer that is killing Jessica Rothe, but the main feeling that you really get out of this movie is actually more lighthearted. There's a lot more comedy in this film than you'd expect, and for the most part the comedy does work. There are some moments where they actually make fun of horror movie cliches, and that's actually pretty funny. But for me, I was just kind of expecting more of a balance of like, you'll have your funny moments and it'll balance out with the kind of scary and creepy stuff that'll be going on with this killer dude. And they didn't really do that. I wasn't really particularly scared at any scene or any thought later on after I saw the movie. And I think this movie could have maybe been more effective if there was more to the scares in this movie. And also if there was just a little bit more to the emotion in this film. Because the character of Tree, when she's going through her character arc, it kind of has to deal with her character getting over something from her past. In order to move on with her life and become a better person, she has to get over this. And whenever it comes down to her actually trying to do that, it just didn't really feel like there was a big emotional effect when she was doing that. Like, I can see some people maybe going like, oh, that's sweet. And for me, it was just like, I feel like there can be more here, And also, the overall plot of this movie, the script, neat concept, and for the most part it's done very well. There's funny montages of just deaths happening when she's trying to investigate who's trying to kill her, so that some stuff like that was pretty funny, and it worked for the concept and the story. But when they finally reveal who the killer is and other stuff involving that, at first I was just like, really? That's okay, that's a little bit of a letdown. But then later on in the movie, when they reveal something else, it was just kind of like, okay, there's some scenes that don't really add up now when you look back on the rest of the film, so that can kind of hinder on someone's enjoyment if they wanted to rewatch it again. And I don't think this is really a problem with the director. I think he did a really good job of directing the actors and setting up the scenes and executing them and all that. I just think this is really a problem with the script, you know, maybe one more rewrite to kind of, you know, retool everything, make it all kind of fit, make it cohesive and all that. And I think we could have had a really special kind of horror comedy here for this year. Unfortunately, though, there's a lot of missed opportunities. It doesn't really make you feel like I'm going to remember this movie for at least this month of October. It's a more simple, kind of fun to pass the time kind of movie. It's a movie you can watch, pretty much. Or as I should say, it's a movie that if you can get through the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, then it becomes watchable, then you can watch it. Because the sorority girls, they are quite rude and kind of obnoxious for a long time in this movie. So overall, as a movie, it's fine. You can watch it. I would say wait until it comes on Netflix, though, because that's kind of... I think that's where this movie should have been released. If it was just like a simple, like, Netflix obscure release, then you could be like, oh, that was pretty enjoyable, but it's a kind of a major motion picture release, and it's actually doing quite well for itself, as most Blumhouse movies do, which is to be expected. But I think this movie could have been reworked in a way so that the attention is actually warranted, because for me, there are some people out there saying like, hey, it was actually a decent time, and sure it is, but I just was expecting a little bit more from it. I'm gonna give Happy Death Day a C. It is a fine watch. You can watch it like maybe once, maybe another time if you really want to, but it's just not that kind of movie that'll really stick with you for a long time. It's a very much so one and done. That was simple fun kind of movie. The performances are better than the movie really deserves, but the scares itself I think could have been worked in a lot better. And there are some things comedically that could have been fixed too, but for the most part, it's funny enough, it's acted well enough, the story, it works well enough. But if you've seen Happy Death Day, leave in the comments below of what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher, and look out for something very special coming October 17th, and the 24th, and the 31st. See you guys next time.